Oncology TV coverage here from ASCO 2015 continues. Thomas Baldrick with Dr. Ian Schnadig from the U.S. Oncology Research Network. Thank you, sir, for stopping by. Let's talk about the efficacy and safety of Rolapitant for prevention of chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. Let's start with what is the mechanism of action with this drug?
This drug works by binding tightly to the NK-1 receptor. The NK-1 receptor is associated with chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting in both the acute first 24 hours and delayed 24 hours to 120 hours following the delivery of chemotherapy. So we know that's an active receptor within the central nervous system, and this NK-1 receptor antagonist binds with great affinity to that receptor, and that's its associated mechanism of action.
So with this study, what were you looking to do? What was your objective?
So this study comes on the heels of a larger randomized phase 3 trial, our registry trial, which was presented at last year's ASCO, evaluating patients receiving single-day moderately emetogenic chemotherapy. That study met its primary endpoint of improvement of complete response. Complete response is defined as no emesis and no use of rescue medication in the delayed phase, so in that 24-hour to 120-hour period. That study showed a delta of approximately 10% in the complete response rate, and then this study that we presented at this ASCO is a subset analysis of that trial, evaluating patients that received AC, doxorubicin and cyclophosphamide, which prior or at the time of this trial design was designated as moderately emetogenic. It has since that time been recharacterized as highly emetogenic, and so this trial and this data that we're presenting here is to reconcile that change in categories and pull out that subset of patients from the moderately emetogenic trial.
What can you give us in terms of highlights of the data you've got here?
So in concordant with the data we presented last year with the overall moderately emetogenic group, the AC subset also showed a statistically improved complete response rate in the delayed phase. It did not meet statistical significance in the acute phase, but did in the overall phase. We also saw improvements in time to first emesis, and so what we've seen here is concordant with the larger study group that we presented last year, and we believe that Rolapitant has activity and efficacy in patients receiving AC-based chemotherapy.
And how about future investigation?
So, well, I'll also just mention Paul Hesketh's poster, which he presented as well, looking at the carboplatin subset, as well as other non-AC moderately emetogenic chemotherapy, and that study was positive in both of those subsets, as would be expected. Other areas of investigation include investigator-initiated concepts, looking at other clinical spaces. Area of interest might be chemoradiotherapy, and so really looking at other clinical spaces in which to investigate the role of NK-1 antagonists to alleviate the symptoms of chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming by today, and we'll see you again down the road, but thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.